Hi, welcome to another episode of Hobbyist Now, your one-stop shop for everything.
All things nerdy and dirty.
That's right. That's right. Always. Again, I'm Claudian, and of course, this is Nick. We just want you to know. Don't forget to like or subscribe and share if you like what you see. Also, leave a comment. We would really love to hear from you guys.
We're also on Spotify. The link is actually in our bio.
As this is going to be our last, I think, episode for our Halloween little run we've been doing. For those doing the Halloween trick or treating with your family, hope you all have a safe one. As I'm sure we will be. So,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, off to the news. All right, Nick. So what do you got us? What do you got for us for tonight?
So tonight, to start off our news, we actually have some pretty exciting, something exciting to start off with. A new 30th anniversary of Yu Yu Hakusho, the Blu-ray disc set, including brand new OVAs with English dub, will actually be dropping. Crunchyroll announced on Friday that it will release a 30th anniversary box set of Yu Yu Hakusho anime on January 31st. It will include 2 new original video animation OVA episodes, 2 shots, and All or Nothing. The 2 episodes will receive an English dub for the first time. Cast members from Funimation original dub will return. I don't know about you, but I absolutely loved Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, 100%.
So Claudian, we'll move over to you actually now.
Yeah, so we got a fish from the official website of Kabam's Transformers Forged to Fight free-to-play fighting game announced on Thursday that the game will end service and shut down all servers on January 13th. Kabam has disabled all in-app purchases for the game. Kabam released the free-to-play fighting game for Android and iOS in April of 2017. So it's been running for a couple years at least. The company plans to release new stories for the game through December. In other news, Trigun Stampede Anime's second trailer reveals more cast and staff. And again, that's coming out January 2023 debut. I'm not a fan of the animation still. So
Well, I'm hoping maybe with this animation change, because I didn't like the original. So
really, and
yeah.
I love the original. I just don't like this new one. That's just me. And some real sad news. Legendary actor Robbie Coltrane, who many people know played Hagrid on the Harry Potter films, died on October 14th of this year. He was 72 years old. That hit pretty hard for me because I grew up on those films. Nick, what was your were you a Harry Potter fan?
Oh yeah, I remember going to the movies and actually seeing the first 3. I mean, yeah, it's losing a lot of legends lately. It's
Yeah,
been tough.
just watched a video of him just talking about the legacy of like him playing a role like Hagrid, and like giving it to his kids and grandkids, because he was like, in 50 years I'm not going to be here, and to see that, it's just heartbreaking. But Nick, we're gonna move to you, to your actual favorite part of this segment.
Yes, and in much much lighter news, my favorite portion, the figures. So little callback to one of our earlier episodes. Square Enix Xenogears Bring Arts Veltal ID action figure will actually be dropping. Again, all of these will be dropping November of this year. He'll retail at 120 US, 124 Euro, 193 Australian, and 166 Canadian. He's over here. He is an absolutely beautiful figure. Looks like he has multiple points of articulation. Just very, very well made. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, Square Enix. I'm always on their site just to see what they got. Their stuff is just insanely detailed.
Oh yeah, no,
For sure.
absolutely beautiful
Like-
figures. Just very, very high price points.
Yeah, I might actually have to be at this though, because
Oh yeah, Veltal, beautiful. Moving on to the next figure, another callback to another episode that we have made mention of this. Good Smile Company Chainsaw Man Nenroid figure. He will run you about 37 US, 38 Euro, 60 Australian, and 52 Canadian. He has his multiple faces. He also has his human form and his Chainsaw Man form. Both will be over here. Then, moving on to another video game. Undertale Nenroid figures, Papyrus and Sans. They don't come together, unfortunately, and they'll both run you about $33 US, 34 Euro, 54 Australian, and 46 Canadian. Also very well detailed figures. And then, sad news, animator Yoshitaka Kono has passed away. Kono had reported a seizure and a wound from a couple of months ago. So, also very sad. He was an animator on many different animes such as Demon Slayer, Berserk, The Golden Arc, Advent, Magical Girl, Pretty Sammy, Tenchi Forever, the movie. He was also an animation director for Bleach, the movie, Memories of Nobody, My Goddess, the movie, and Tenchi Muyo GXP. So very heavy hitter. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, his family is not, too distressed. But it's hard not to be when you lose someone.
Yeah, somebody with such talent like that. Yeah. Being part of such legendary IPs like that.
Yeah, so hopefully none of these IPs take huge hits either, because that's usually seems to be the way it goes. But Klodian, moving on to you.
And last bit of news, in fact, Callisto Protocol has just released a gameplay demo, 12 minutes of gameplay, but kind of misleading because it's about 5 minutes and a half of actual gameplay. Then there's some weird stills, and then another trailer that follows that, which comes out 12 minutes. But you can check that out. It's everywhere on YouTube. Holy crap, does that game look crazy?
Oh my god, yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? Our thoughts on the on this new so far from what we're seeing?
I personally am in love with this game. I love at least two of the Dead Space games, and this gives me hard vibes of OG Dead Space. I mean, no surprise, it's made by the original team that made Dead Space. Yeah. So. But everything's super derivative. I'm super excited for it. I've been excited for a game in a long time. Yeah. What about you, Claudia?
Yeah, it looks like a game that I'm going to have to wear brown pants to when I'm playing.
No more playing at night for me.
Yeah, that was a Deadpool reference, by the way. Yes. Anyways, yeah, so speaking of which, we're going to move to our actual main topic of the evening. Are you ready, Nick, to journey to that deep, dark, colorless, because space is black, I guess, of space into the Dead Space
where no one franchise. Can hear you scream?
Yes, that was from Aliens. People, we know. or we should be singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" like in the original trailer for the game. So we're gonna begin with Dead Space, and so this game has a lot of lore. It's very thick into lore. So again, as always, we try to make this somewhat digestible for everybody. So excuse us for skipping a lot of stuff because it would take like hours literally to go through everything. But yeah, so we're gonna begin. In fact, actually, we're gonna begin with a book, Dead Space. The first book is gonna be Martyr. Which came out in 2010. The novel dives into the history of the Church of Unitology, and the origin of the mysterious black marker. And for those who don't know, Unitology are kind of like the crazy people in the Dead Space franchise. They're the ones that are causing all the issues for the most part. Basically, if you ever wonder who's behind everything, it's Unitologists. But the novel revolves around geophysicist Michael Altman as he investigates a mysterious signal and uncovers a mysterious alien artifact. And of course, Michael Altman becomes basically like a god to these unitologists. So even in the game, they'll often praise him. and then they'll slit their throats.
Yeah.
Oftentimes their own throats. So the next book, again, following the series in a chronological order, is Catalyst, Dead Space Catalyst. 250 years in the future, extinction threatens mankind. Tampering with dangerous technologies from the Black Marker, an ancient alien artifact discovered on Earth 80 years earlier, EarthGov hopes to save humanity. But the Marker's influence reanimates corpses to grotesque, rampaging nightmares. Steeped into desperation, deceit, and hubris, the history of the Markers reveals our ominous future. Brothers Istvan and Jetson grow up under the porous dome of Vendaga. Jensen has always looked after Istvan, who sometimes lashes out in sudden episodes of violent paranormal, which you'll get a lot of that in the series. When Istvan is sent off-world to the high-security prison, Jensen is determined to follow and find a way to keep his brother safe. But the prison guards have a horrible secret, one that will push both brothers to the cusps of something much greater and darker than they would ever imagine. So the books sound kind of interesting. Again, these were just little blurbs of the books. I'm sure you could find those books anywhere, Audible or probably somewhere on YouTube or whatever, however people get books nowadays. So, but we're gonna move over to comic books, right, Nick? So what do we got?
Yeah. So we'll be moving on to the actual Dead Space comics. They were all released in 2008, and there's 6 issues. So here's a quick rundown of that. In the distant future, humanity has colonized worlds beyond Earth's solar system. 200 years prior, a man named Michael Altman discovered an artifact of unknown origin known as the Marker, which had led him to begin a religion, Unitology, that supposedly taught the truth about human existence. Altman was later killed allegedly by the Earth government in an attempt to silence the truth. However, the veracity of the account has yet to be confirmed. In present time, a new marker has been discovered on another colony, and strange things have been happening amongst the colonists. The comic starts off with Newman making a video log about what happened in the comic, but the comic drifts away from Newman's point of view occasionally and features events where Newman is not present. Dead Space Salvage was released in 2010. The USG Ishimura, the most infamous of the Planet Cracker class ships, was flung from orbit around Aegis 7. The disastrous events of Dead Space, it was lost somewhere in deep space, and both the government and powerful religious sect called the Church Unitology believe that it may still hold the red marker, believed to be an alien artifact that promised great power for either side, and both would stop at nothing to reach it first. Claudian, why don't you continue for us?
Yeah, so now we're going to move over to, in fact, animation. Again, Dead Space is, in fact, very multimedia. So now they made several movies, and here's one of them now. Aftermath centers on the Aegis 7 disaster and explores how the government sent an unwilling crew of people to get exposed to the marker's shards. The government is secretly trying to produce a visible marker blueprint carrier, no matter the cost, again, to combat the marker. Then there's followed up with Liberation, a prequel to the events of the Smash video game hit Dead Space 3. We follow EarthGov Sergeant John Carver, whose wife and son are attacked by fanaticals trying to liberate the marker site where she works. Racing to solve the clues his wife left behind, Carver teams up with Ellie Longford, who of course becomes very important in the main story. Survivor of the earlier necromorph outbreak on the Sprawl, and EarthGov Captain Robert Norton. Together they unlock deep secrets about the marker in an epic adventure that will help determine the fate of mankind. Well, we're going to go now to our kind of honorable mentions. These were kind of games / media that aren't so prevalent, but they're still notable. And here's the first one: Dead Space Ignition, a prequel to the Dead Space 2 game, released in 2010. Dead Space Ignition is an action puzzle video game which follows Franco Delilio, a engineer who witnesses the initial necromorph outbreak. Necromorphs, by the way, are the monsters. So if anytime you look up this game, for those who have never played it, it's literally the things with the spikes that look insane. But the necromorph outbreak on the Sprawl. The ending of Ignition directly sets up the opening of Dead Space 2, where DeLillo is ordered to find and free Clark from an Earth-Gov asylum, only to be killed and transformed into the necromorph, which is when you ever play... if you just play the beginning of the game, it's the guy that gets literally releases you, and then he gets like destroyed by one of the
like immediately.
Yeah, he's like, I'm here to save you. The giant spike goes through him. Reminiscent to actually Alien. Always reminded me of that scene with the Queen and Bishop. Nick, we got some more notable.
Of course. We'll be moving on to Dead Space, the mobile game. It looks, if anyone is aware of the Resident Evil 4 mobile game, it looks exactly like that as far as graphics are concerned. A 2011 tie-in to Dead Space 2 developed by Iron Monkey Studios, Dead Space was a mobile title about newly converted unitologists on a mission in the mines of Titan Station. The game features an appearance from Titan Station director Hans Tideman, a major antagonist of Dead Space 2, and provides context behind the necromorph infestation of the Sprawl. It has since been removed from all app storefronts. I'm sure you can find it somewhere, but I don't know how worth playing it is because I don't know much about it. Dead Space Extraction is a prequel to the Dead Space games. Dead Space Extraction follows a group of colonists from a GS7 colony who are beset by necromorphs created when the red marker is removed. Originally released as a rail shooter title for the Nintendo Wii in 2009, a port with the PlayStation Move support for the PlayStation 3 was later released as a downloadable game on the PlayStation Network in 2011. It was also bundled with PlayStation 2 for the PS3. Claudian, why don't you move us on to our meat and potatoes?
All right. So now we're gonna move to the main topic, like you said, the meat and the potatoes, and that will be the Dead Space games. So we're gonna now focus on the 3 games specifically. So the first game was Dead Space, which came out in 2008. Dead Space, and it was on every console, if I recall, at the time. Well, every Xbox and PS3. I should restate. Sorry, but it was on those two. Dead Space is set in the year 2508. Earth has gone through an extinction level event caused by unsuitable use of resources. The remaining humans realize that the only way to gain the resources to survive would be to search new planets for resources. That is where the Concordation Extraction Corporation came in. At a time of near desperation, the CEC engineered the ships that would eventually save all of humanity. That is where the USG Ishimura comes into play. The USG Ishimura was a ship designed for the new resource gathering practice of planet cracking, which is pretty dope. Break open planets to get resources. The Ishimura's job was to mine other planets for their most rare and most valuable resource to make them take them back to Earth. Even though there are subsequent planet crackers, a small fleet now existed. The Ishimura remained the iconic symbol of mankind's will to survive, even after all of these decades. Thanks to planet cracking, mankind has now is now thriving again, and resources are plentiful. By the time the game begins, the Ishimura performed 34 successful planet cracks and is now in the process of beginning its 35th. However, the events that took place during the planet crack are the events that would threaten the very survival of mankind. The player must fight their way through various levels of the stricken mining ship, which has been infested with an alien species known as the Necromorphs. The game features an over-the-shoulder third-person perspective, similar to the kind that you would have found on Resident Evil 4, or my personal favorite, Gears of War. And another thing is, the game, in fact, does end on a jump scare. I thought that was kind of interesting. Scared the shit out of me. Dead Space 1 facts. Just a little bit of facts here. When you take the first letters for each chapter, they spell the phrase, Nicole is dead. The end of each word is a boss fight. The Leviathan at the E of Ellie. The slug at the S is of the S. And the hive mind at the second D of dead. With exception of Isaac and Nicole, all of the main characters die in the chapters that make up the word dead. Hamid in Dead, on arrival. Chillis Mercer in End of Days. Dr. Terrence Kine in Alternate Solutions. And Kendra in Dead Space. The animated movie and the game show the death of Captain Benjamin Mathis in slightly different ways. In the movie, the captain breaks free from being restrained and attacks the doctor. In his death, seemingly tragic accident in an ensuing struggle. However, in the game, the events between the captain being restrained and Kine stabbing Mathis in the eye with the serum are lost to video interference. Dead Space is listed actually number 12 in IGN's top 25 PlayStation 3 games. There are more death scenes ending with Isaac's decapitation than any other variation of death in the game, which is fun. Some fun facts there. So we're going to move to you, Nick.
I'm going to be talking about Dead Space 2. It was released in 2011. The game begins in the hospital on the Sprawl, a densely populated metropolis built on the shard of the moon Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Isaac Clarke has no memory of the last 3 years, having just been released by Franco and the protagonist of Dead Space Ignition. However, before he can remove the straitjacket, Franco is killed and transformed into a necromorph. Leaving Isaac to escape on his own, he is later contacted by a woman named Diana Lee Gwyn, who guides him to her location. He is also contacted by another patient, Nolan Strauss, claiming he and Isaac can destroy the marker. Ignoring Strauss, Isaac fights his way across the city, making his way to Diana. Upon their arrival, 2 guards seize Isaac, and Diane reveals that she is a unitologist sent to recover Isaac, claiming that he is responsible for building the marker, that he is causing the current infestation, and that they need him to build more. As they're about to leave, a gunship guns down Diana and her associates, allowing Isaac to escape. Strauss contacts Isaac again, and he reluctantly decides to trust Strauss, as his only mission now is to destroy the marker. He tells Isaac that the marker is located in the government sector under lockdown. As Isaac makes his way there, he comes across another survivor, Ellie Langford, a CEC officer who eventually joins the mission and deciding that she needs their help to survive. As they progress through the Sprawl, the station's administrator, Hans Tideman, throws several obstacles in their way to stop them from getting to the marker. Later, Strauss' dementia worsens, leading to him attacking Ellie. She survives, and later Isaac is forced to kill Strauss in self-defense. As Isaac fights his way to the marker, his visions of Nicole become more vivid. As she tries to deter him from his task, eventually he comes to accept that he cannot run away anymore, and that his destiny is to sacrifice his life to stop the marker, causing the Nicole visions to become friendly and peaceful. Upon reaching the government sector, Isaac sends Ellie away alone on a gunship, which she is expecting him to get on with her. Narrowly avoiding Tideman's men, he releases the doors holding back necromorphs, trying to get the marker, who overwhelm them. Isaac eventually comes upon the marker, which is surrounded by necromorphs. As Isaac looks on, the marker begins convergence, an event foretold by the unitologist. With the vision of Nicole guiding him, he comes upon the machine that unlocks the block marker infected parts of his mind, which Nicole claims will help him. He fights his way to the marker, where he encounters Tideman, whom Isaac is forced to kill. Isaac then approaches the marker when Nicole's vision suddenly pulls Isaac into his mind. There, Isaac encounters the parts of the affected by the marker and Nicole's vision, who then reveals that the only way to be reborn is to absorb the body and the mind of the one who created it. After the lengthy battle, Isaac is able to destroy the Nicole vision and rid all traces of the marker influence in his mind, destroying the marker in the process. Upon exiting his mind, Isaac slumps to the ground, ready to accept his fate. As the violent destruction of the marker leads to the collapse of the station, suddenly Isaac receives a call from Ellie, who crashes the gunship through the ceiling. As Titan Station collapses, Isaac makes his way onto the gunship and they escape. Some fun facts actually about this game. After the credits, an audio transmission is heard between two people, an unknown subordinate and the ranking superior, only known as the overseer. From the text logs that can be collected during the course of the game, the subordinate relays that Titan Station, known as Marker Site 12, and the marker has been destroyed. The overseer replies that the other sites will have to pick up the other pieces. On the PS3 version, when the game is selected, before you begin the game, the image of Isaac in the advanced suit will appear in front of the sprawl. If you examine the image of Isaac, you will notice that the stasis energy meter is on the left side of Isaac's suit instead of on the right where it's located in the game. This is likely because they wanted to show the stasis energy meter on the stasis module, but since Isaac's right side of the body isn't seen in the image, they had to move it to the left. Similar to Dead Space, Isaac's first encounter with the necromorphs is conducted without weapons, forcing him to flee from the necromorphs in close pursuit. After the game is beaten on any difficulty, the background of the menu will actually show a fully constructed red marker instead of the fragments you've seen before in the game. In the final moments of the game, you will see the fragments closing in on each other in place of where the marker will be. The amount of the fragments floating in the background will steadily increase as you progress through the game. Dead Space 2 is the first game in the Dead Space series to actually have a multiplayer online. Claudian, why don't you give us our last game?
Yep. So we're going to go to Dead Space 3, which is the last of the trilogy. And going back to 2 for a moment, it's funny how nobody can do anything and you got to be the one to do it, just like 1. And those unitologists are often, it's just their fault. It's always the unitologists.
They definitely made it a lot harder to play through the game.
Yeah. They're about to make it a lot harder for this one. Dead Space 3 came out in 2013. Dead Space 3 is set in 2514. After the events of Dead Space, EarthGov captured Isaac Clarke and harvested his mind for the marker blueprints in order to revive the marker program, in which markers are used to provide resources and power for the human race. The marker built by Delirious Isaac on Titan Station, however, activated, resulting in another outbreak of necromorphs. Isaac then escapes with mining engineer Ellie Langford after he destroyed the marker, resulting in the Titan Station destruction. Isaac and Ellie continue to hide from EarthGov and reside on the New Horizons lunar colony, a city found on Earth's moon. In that time, Ellie's lost eye was replaced, and the two developed a romantic relationship. However, due to the events of Isaac had witnessed, Ellie and Ellie's ambition to stop the markers, the two broke it off. Ellie left to figure out ways to stop the markers while Isaac stayed in hiding and quickly regretting breaking it off with Ellie. 3 years after the Titan Station incident, a radical unitologist group known as the Inner Circle has begun to reign of violence. Riots have been destroying the marker test labs on all major colonies to spread the necromorph infection. Apparently, these attacks have been so thorough, and so devastating that EarthGov has effectively been destroyed. Recently, the group attacked the marker test site on a planet Oxor. During the planet's infestation, Sergeant John Carver's wife and son were murdered by Jacob Arthur Dankin, the founder and leader of the Inner Circle. Carver's family were transformed into necromorphs, and he was forced to destroy them to survive. However, he was rescued from certain death by Captain Robert Norden and Ellie Longford. After escaping the planet, the group was followed by the Inner Circle. After Ellie traced the marker signal to a distant planet, Ellie headed for the planet Tau Valtes with Austin Bucklell and Jennifer Santos. Before leaving, Ellie asked Norden to find Isaac's back at the New Horizon. Norden and Carver then left to find Clark, with the Inner Circle following them. This is the first game that unfortunately introduces microtransactions, and it's the first game where you actually are combating against humans. When you take the first letters for each of the chapters of the prologue, they form the words "Brother, moons are awake." This is the first Dead Space game that is primarily set on a planet. Unlike the previous titles, Dead Space 3 uses a large amount of active music. The previous titles only used music during highly tense moments, such as boss battles or area-related hazards. Dead Space 3, however, maintains an active orchestra score throughout the majority of the game. Unlike Dead Space 2, which completely remade the models and assets from Dead Space 3 reused a great deal of assets from the previous title. The music of the official announcement trailer is called Fishing Grounds by the composer Paul D'Amaro. Songs seem to indirectly refer to the aliens who were biologically similar to fish. The song played in the launch trailer is called In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. In sub-zero temperatures, Isaac and Carver's rigs will display their body temperature dropping before they eventually freeze to death. This is the first game in the Dead Space franchise to include this feature, although it is only used during a very short period of the game. Unfortunately, co-op gameplay was online only. Similar to Dead Space 2, if a save of the previous game is found in the Xbox 360 or PS3 hard drive, the players will receive a free Planet Cracker class plasma cutter at the first bench available. The only difference is that the free cutter, now being a Planet Cracker class tool, has an added damage bonus and is colored completely steel gray. Dead Space 3 is the first Dead Space game that doesn't use credits for currency. Everything is crafted or upgraded from resources. Isaac is canonically shot and injured numerous times throughout the cutscenes of the game, including constantly being thrown off a cliff. Curiously, none of these injuries seem to prove fatal and are completely disregarded immediately. None of the main cast dies at necromorphs by the necromorphs. Rosin and Locke die on their way down to Tau Voltes. Balkans dies of hypothermia. Santos dies from falling off from a cliff, indirectly caused by the snow beast. Dankin dies as convergence resumes because of a large chunk of rock pierced him. And Norden dies by Isaac's hands. Isaac, Carver, Norden, and Rosin are the only characters with full rigs out of the entire cast. Curiously, despite the surface of Tau Voltus being covered in active markers, the widespread insanity effect experienced on Aegis 7 and the USG Ishimura in Dead Space, as well as on Titan Station in Dead Space 2, never seemed to affect the Scarf forces or Isaac's group, except for John Carver. This may be in part of the effectiveness of the machine underneath Tau Voltas, freezing the brother moon and thus deactivating the red marker on the planet. Story-wise, it is ironic that Isaac's group comes down to Tau Voltas to stop the marker from reaching Earth, but ends up unintentionally helping Dankin's unitologies discovering the existence of the Brethren moons and resuming convergence, effectively leading the moons toward Earth and dooming its inhabitants. Like Dead Space 2, Dead Space 3 is now backwards compatible on the PlayStation 1. Okay, well, that was a lot to take in. That was, yeah, that was us trying to just touch bases on just very little bit of the games, but the lore is extremely heavy. Nick, what do you got to say for this franchise? Anything you want
to? Yeah, I absolutely love the second game. It's my top 10 favorite games that I've ever played. Probably easily the fifth. So I'll just skip straight to my rating. Actually, okay. So the first game, I give it an 8. The Dead Space 2 gets an easy 9.5. Absolutely love that game. Just played it recently to actually prepare for this. It's phenomenal. Graphics are still pretty good, hold up relatively well, especially if you, have any kind of if you have a decent TV. If you're not playing on an old CRT or something, you should be fine. And then 3, a 6 or a 7. It's not great. It's not terrible either. Just not my cup of tea. Claudian?
Yeah. Well, I have to give the first one easily at least an 8.5 to 9. It's phenomenal. Scary as hell. I feared making every turn, down every corridor, because you got to basically do everything by yourself, essentially, in this game. All these games, and you're kind of led by really unitologists. You're just unaware of it, and so the atmosphere is just on point. It's scary as hell. So yeah, definitely that one. Number 2, same thing. I think it's slightly less because you're more aware of it. It becomes more of a shooter game, except for Nicole. Nicole's creepy as hell. His vision of Nicole, that is. It's really the marker, but oh my god, all those moments where she shows up, it's just really creepy. And then so that one I would definitely give that one around an 8 or an 8.5 as well. Actually, again, phenomenal game. Third one is really where they kind of went all gung-ho on the action. It often plays like a Uncharted game a lot of times. So it was kind of distracting from the original horror aspect, but I would give that one still around probably a 7. So there was a big issue with multiplayer. because there was aspects of the game where you needed to have multiplayer, so you weren't able to access certain things without it, which kind of was a bummer. But otherwise, it's a great franchise. They're all available right now on Xbox. If you have Xbox Unlimited, I recommend highly playing them. And we're kind of getting ourselves excited for a big release coming out, the remake.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, so you gonna be ready for the remake? Like,
I've been ready. I have Depends ready and everything.
yeah, it depends. Yeah, I'll make sure to wear my brown pants. You know.
This guy gets it. He's gonna wear the brown pants.
I'm gonna wear the brown pants. Yeah. But yeah, so for those who still here, that concludes, I think, our overview of the games. There's plenty of stuff out there on YouTube that thoroughly covers the actual storyline, but again, we try to just touch base on everything. Hopefully it's going to be a growing franchise with this new remake coming out, and then of course with Callisto Protocol coming out as well. Hopefully there's some sort of reemergence of these kind of games. But thanks for sticking to the very end, as always. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you.
And follow us on Spotify if you haven't already. And thanks again.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.